Hello, everyone. Before we begin tonight's story, if you enjoy tales that help you unwind and drift into peaceful sleep, consider subscribing to the channel. These stories are crafted to bring you calm, and there are many more waiting for you here. Now, dim the lights, settle in, and let yourself be carried away. The moment the North Star pierced through the Arctic darkness, we knew Christmas had finally arrived on the ice. Not by calendar, not by counting days scratched into frozen wood, but by that single point of light hanging steady above the white horizon, unwavering despite the winds that howled across the frozen sea. For men stationed this far north, beyond the reach of church bells and hearth fires, the stars become your only clock. And when the North Star shone with that particular brightness on this night, we Sentinels stopped our endless watch and allowed ourselves something we had nearly forgotten: celebration. My name is Thomas, and I have been stationed at this northern outpost for 8 months now. 8 months of ice and silence, of watching horizons that never change, of breathing air so cold it burns your lungs before you even feel it enter. There are 5 of us here, 5 men tasked with guarding a coastline so remote that most maps do not bother marking it. We watch for ships that rarely come. We record weather that no one reads. We exist in a space the world has mostly forgotten. But tonight is different. Tonight, as James spotted the North Star through a brief clearing in the endless gray clouds, something shifted in the air between us. Not warmth exactly. The cold remains as it always has, patient and thorough. But something else. Hope, perhaps. Or memory. The kind that makes you remember you were once more than just a body fighting to stay warm. "There it is," James said quietly, his breath forming thick clouds that hung in the still air inside our shelter, clear as I've ever seen it. We all turned to look through the small opening we keep near the roof, a gap just wide enough to see sky without letting too much heat escape, though calling what we have heat feels generous. Our shelter, built partially underground and covered with layers of packed snow and canvas, manages to stay just above freezing when the lamps burn and our bodies crowd together. The North Star gleamed, and without discussion, without planning, we each understood what it meant. Let me tell you how we came to be here, so far from warmth and civilization that even the concept of Christmas feels like a luxury we have no right to claim. The outpost was established 3 years ago by a northern trading company, hoping to map routes through ice that shifts with every season. They built a small station, stocked it with supplies meant to last 2 years, and sent rotating teams of men to watch, record, and survive. Our job is simple in theory: observe, document, signal if anything unusual appears. In practice, the job is mostly about enduring.
I arrived in March with Edward and William. James and Peter had already been here 4 months, waiting for relief that came later than promised. Spring in the Arctic is not what spring means elsewhere. It is simply a time when the sun returns, climbing slowly above the horizon after months of darkness. The ice remains, the cold persists, but light comes back, and with it, a kind of thin hope. We expected to rotate out by now, but ships move according to ice, not schedules. The last supply vessel that reached us came in early September, bringing fuel, food, and letters from home. Letters written months earlier, already outdated by the time we read them. The captain promised to return before freeze-up, but storms delayed him. Then ice closed the passage entirely. We have been alone since. Alone with enough supplies to last until spring, assuming we ration carefully. Alone with 5 small lamps that burn seal oil, giving off more smoke than warmth. Alone with each other and the endless white expanse that surrounds our shelter in every direction. So when the North Star appeared tonight, breaking through clouds that have concealed it for weeks, we recognized it for what it was: a gift, a reminder. Christmas arrives even here. The shelter creaks softly as wind moves across the surface above us. This is our home, not comfortable by any measure, but survivable. The structure itself is half buried, dug down into permafrost and insulated with everything we could find. Snow blocks line the exterior walls, packed so tightly they feel like stone when you touch them. Inside, Wooden planks salvaged from crates form walls and a low ceiling that forces you to stoop when moving around. The space is roughly 12 feet across, circular, because circles shed wind better than corners. 5 sleeping areas line the perimeter, each barely wider than a man's shoulders. In the center sits our stove, a metal box we feed with driftwood and seal blubber when we can find it. The stove vents through a pipe that rises through the ceiling and extends just high enough to pull smoke away without letting too much warm air escape. Warm is relative here. Even with the stove burning, frost forms on the interior walls by morning. Our breath freezes into crystals that drift slowly downward, coating everything in a fine layer of ice. We scrape it away daily, a ritual that feels both necessary and futile. But tonight, the stove burns a little brighter. James added an extra piece of driftwood, something we normally save for emergencies. The flames respond, climbing higher, casting flickering light across faces that have grown gaunt and weathered over these months. We gather close, sitting on the wooden platforms we use as beds, wrapped in every layer we own. Christmas, William says softly, almost testing the word. William is the youngest among us, barely 22.
He came north for adventure and money, not fully understanding what either would cost him out here. He does now. The cold has carved lines into his face that make him look older. His hands, even inside thick mittens, move stiffly. Frostbite took the tip of his left thumb 6 weeks ago. It healed, but slowly. I kept count, Edward says. Edward is meticulous, the kind of man who finds comfort in order. He has been marking days on a piece of driftwood, scratching lines with a nail. December 24th, if I haven't lost track. Close enough, Peter mutters. Peter is the oldest, nearly 50. He has worked northern waters for decades, seen ice in every form it takes. He speaks rarely, but when he does, we listen. Stars don't lie. If the North Star shines tonight, then it's Christmas. That's how my father taught me. And so we accepted. Christmas has arrived at our outpost on the ice. The question becomes, how do you celebrate Christmas when you have almost nothing? No decorations, no special food set aside, no gifts wrapped and hidden away. Everything we own serves a purpose tied to survival. There is no excess, no luxury saved for occasions. But we have something. James reaches into his sleeping area and pulls out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. He unwraps it carefully, revealing 5 strips of dried meat, dark and tough, preserved from a seal we caught weeks ago. It's not much, but it's more than our daily ration. I saved these, he says simply. Thought we might need them for something. No one questions his decision to withhold rations. Out here, trust runs differently than it does in the world beyond the ice. We trust each other to survive, to make decisions that keep us all alive. If James saved food, he had reason. For Christmas, Edward says, nodding slowly. That's something. We divide the meat equally, 5 small portions, barely enough to taste, but we eat slowly, making it last, letting the salt and fat linger on our tongues. It tastes better than it should, not because of flavor, but because of what it represents. Choice, celebration, the decision to mark this moment as different from all the others that have blurred together into a single endless stretch of cold and waiting. William produces something next, a small tin of tobacco he's been hoarding. Can't smoke it, he says, grinning slightly, but we can smell it. He opens the tin and passes it around. Each man takes a moment, breathing in the scent. It smells of earth and warmth, of places where things grow. The smell alone triggers memories so vivid they almost hurt. Memories of homes we have not seen in months, of people we cannot reach. My wife used to hate when I smoked, he says quietly. Now I'd give anything to hear her complain about it again. The shelter falls silent for a moment. Then Peter speaks. My daughter will be 12 now, or near enough. I've missed 2 birthdays. My brother promised to look after my house. Edward adds.
Hope he remembered to drain the pipes before winter. We each carry these small worries, these threads connecting us to lives that feel increasingly distant. Out here, time moves strangely. Days blur together, marked only by the routines we maintain to stay sane. Wake, eat, check instruments, scan horizons, eat again, sleep, repeat. But tonight, we remember. We remember that beyond this ice, life continues. Children grow, pipes freeze or don't. Wives complain about tobacco smoke. The world turns without us. And somehow,
Knowing that brings comfort. "Tell me about Christmas at home," William says suddenly. "Any of you. I need to hear it." James shifts slightly, pulling his layers tighter. "My family keeps it simple. Church in the morning, dinner in the afternoon. My mother makes a roast that takes all day. The house smells like rosemary and butter. We sit around the table until the candles burn down, just talking. Nothing fancy, but it's warm, the kind of warm that reaches all the way through you." He pauses, staring at the flames. "I miss that, the warmth, not just temperature, the feeling." Edward nods slowly. "My wife decorates, every surface, every corner, greenery everywhere, candles in the windows. She says it's about bringing light into the darkest time of year. I used to think it was excessive. Now I understand it. The light matters, especially when darkness lasts this long." "We sang," Peter says quietly, "the whole village. Christmas Eve, we'd gather and sing. Old songs, ones everyone knew. You could hear it echoing between the houses. I'm not much of a singer, but I joined in. Felt good, being part of something larger." William listens, eyes distant. "I've never spent Christmas away from home before, never imagined I would. It feels wrong somehow, like I'm breaking a promise I didn't know I made." "You're not alone," I say finally. "That counts for something." And it does. Out here, companionship isn't just comforting, it's essential. We keep each other alive in ways that go beyond sharing rations or taking turns on watch. We keep each other sane. We remind each other that we're still human, still capable of feeling something beyond cold and hunger. Tonight, we remind each other what it means to celebrate. The wind outside picks up slightly, a low moan that slides across the surface snow and finds every gap in our shelter. Cold air trickles in, mixing with the warmer air near the stove, creating currents that make the lamp flames dance. We adjust instinctively, shifting positions, tucking fabric tighter around necks and wrists. These small movements have become automatic after months of constant vigilance against the cold. "Should we sing?" William asks, half joking. "You want to hear me sing?" Peter replies, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly. "That's not a Christmas gift, that's punishment." We laugh. Quiet laughter, but real. It feels strange at first, unfamiliar after so long with so little to laugh about.
But it loosens something in the air between us. "I'll start," James says. He clears his throat and begins humming, a tune most of us recognize. A carol about silent nights and holy nights, about peace and calm. His voice is rough, unpracticed, but earnest. One by one, we join in. Not with words at first. We hum together, letting the melody carry us. Our voices blend in the small space, filling it with something other than wind and the crackle of burning wood. The sound warms the air in a way the fire never quite manages. Then words begin to slip in, fragments of lyrics half remembered. Some of us know different verses, so the song becomes a patchwork, imperfect but sincere. We're not performing, we're participating, creating something together in this place where creation feels impossible. When the carol ends, we sit quietly for a moment. The silence that follows feels different than the silence before. Softer, less heavy. "That wasn't so bad," Peter admits. "Better than sitting in silence counting the days," Edward agrees. William wipes at his eyes quickly, pretending the gesture is about cold irritating them. None of us acknowledge it. Some things don't need to be named. Outside, the wind continues its work, shaping snow into patterns that will be different by morning. The ice shelf we live on creaks occasionally, deep groaning sounds that remind us we're floating on frozen ocean, not standing on solid ground. This fact unsettles William sometimes. "What if it cracks?" he asked once, early in his time here. "Then we move," Peter replied simply, fast.
Understanding, even when it's uncomfortable, beats uncertainty. That's why we remember each other, I say. Right now, we're what's real. The shelter, this moment, each other. And Christmas, James adds, gesturing toward the lamp flame. Real as anything. We sit with that for a while. The celebration, if you can call it that, continues simply. We share stories, small ones, memories that feel safe to tell. Edward talks about the first time he saw the northern lights, years ago on a fishing boat, how the sky rippled with green and purple, so bright he could read by it. He describes it slowly, carefully, trying to paint the image for those of us who haven't witnessed it yet. Will we see it here? William asks. Maybe, Edward replies. If the clouds clear, if the conditions are right, the lights dance when they want to, not when we ask. Peter tells a story about a Christmas storm that trapped his village under snow for 3 days, how neighbors tunneled to each other's houses, creating a network of paths under the white, how children played in the tunnels while adults shared food and fuel, how isolation became community. This reminds me of that, he says. Not the tunnels exactly, but the feeling, being cut off, having to rely on what's close. James nods. There's honesty in it. No pretending, no politics, just survival and the people next to you. Gets lonely though, William admits. I like people, more people, noise and movement and things happening. Spring will bring that, Edward assures him. When shits return, when new crews arrive, it'll feel loud and chaotic. You'll miss the quiet. I won't, William says firmly. Then he reconsiders. Maybe a little. Maybe the stars. You can't see stars like this anywhere else. He's right about that. On clear nights, when clouds part and the darkness is complete, the stars appear in numbers that seem impossible. The sky becomes dense with light. The Milky Way stretches like a river overhead. Constellations we learned as children reveal themselves fully, along with hundreds of others we never knew existed. The North Star, our guide tonight, sits among them, constant, reliable, unmoved by wind or ice or the passage of time. Should we go outside? James suggests. See it properly? The idea hangs in the air. Going outside means suiting up completely, layers upon layers, mittens so thick you can barely move your fingers, face coverings that frost over with your own breath. It means stepping into cold that feels like a physical force pushing against you. But it also means seeing the star clearly, marking this moment under open sky. I'll go, I say. We all go, Peter decides. Together. That's how Christmas should be. Together. We prepare slowly, methodically. This isn't something you rush. First, the inner layers. Wool against skin, dried and aired as best we can manage. Then heavier wool. Then canvas trousers, stiff with cold even inside the shelter.
Thick sweaters, worn thin in places but still functional. Canvas parkas, treated with oil to shed wind. Hoods that cinch tight around faces. Mittens go on last, but first we warm our hands near the stove. Fingers need to be flexible before you trap them in thick wool and leather. Once they're inside mittens, they're committed. Removing them outside means frostbite within minutes. We help each other, checking straps and closures, making sure no skin will be exposed. The cold outside doesn't negotiate. It finds any opening and presses through immediately. Ready? James asks, his voice muffled by the cloth wrapped around his lower face. We nod. Edward moves to the entrance, a low tunnel that slopes upward toward the surface. We keep it blocked with canvas and packed snow. He pulls the canvas aside carefully. Cold air rushes in, sharp and eager. One by one, we crawl through. The tunnel is only about 8 feet long, but it feels longer when you're moving through it in full gear. The walls sparkle with frost crystals that catch light from the lamps behind us. Then we emerge. The cold hits like a wall. Not a gradual chill, a complete, enveloping cold that finds every part of you at once. Your breath freezes instantly, forming ice crystals that hang in front of your face before drifting away. Your eyelashes stiffen. The inside of your nose goes numb. But the sky makes everything worth it. Clear, impossibly clear. More stars than darkness. They sprawl across the black expanse in layers, some sharp and bright, others soft and distant.
The Milky Way cuts across the dome above us, a river of light so dense it casts shadows on the snow. And there, steady and bright, the North Star. We stand together, 5 shapes bundled against the cold, faces turned upward. The wind is surprisingly light tonight, barely more than a whisper across the ice. Our breath rises in clouds, but the air is so cold that sound carries strangely, muffled in some directions, amplified in others. There, William says, pointing. His arm looks bulky in layers, his finger barely visible in the thick mitten. We all see it, the star we've been waiting for, the one that marks north for travelers, the one that, for us, tonight, marks Christmas. Steady as ever, Peter observes. His voice carries respect. Everything else moves. Stars wheel across the sky. Moon rises and sets, but that one stays put. Helps when everything else feels uncertain. We stand in silence for a moment, just looking. The landscape around us glows faintly under starlight. Snow reflects back what little light reaches it, creating a dim twilight that never quite becomes darkness. The ice extends in every direction, broken here and there by pressure ridges where the frozen ocean buckled under its own weight. Those ridges rise like frozen waves, permanent and still. In the far distance, perhaps 5 miles away, we can see the darker line where ice meets open water.
The lead opened there weeks ago, a crack in the frozen surface that hasn't closed despite the cold. Steam rises from it, barely visible as a faint shimmer. The ocean beneath is warmer than the air above, though warmer means barely above freezing. Beautiful, James says softly. It is. Harsh, yes. Hostile, absolutely. But beautiful in a way that's difficult to explain to anyone who hasn't stood in a place like this. There's a purity to it, an honesty. The ice doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. It doesn't hide its danger or soften its edges. You survive here by respecting it, not by fighting it. Should we say something? Edward suggests. Mark the moment? Like a prayer? William asks. If you want, Edward replies, or just words, acknowledgement. We stand together considering this. None of us are particularly religious, though we each carried some faith north with us. Out here, belief becomes complicated. When you're surrounded by forces you cannot control, when survival depends on luck as much as skill, faith shifts. It becomes less about doctrine and more about hope, about trusting that spring will come, that ice will break, that ships will return. I'm grateful, James says finally, for making it this far, for all of us making it this far. That's worth acknowledging. Agreed, Peter adds. Could have been worse. Could have lost someone. Haven't. That's something. I'm grateful for this, William says, gesturing at the sky. For seeing this. I'll remember it. Whenever I'm somewhere warm and comfortable, I'll remember standing here, freezing, looking up, and it'll mean something. Edward nods slowly. I'm grateful we're together, that we're not alone out here. That's the difference between survival and just enduring. They all look at me. I'm grateful for this moment, I say, for Christmas arriving even here, for the North Star shining, for reminding us that some things remain constant, that we can still celebrate even when everything feels impossible. We stand quietly after that, each with our own thoughts. The cold presses in steadily. We can feel it working through layers, finding gaps, testing our defenses. We won't be able to stay out long. Already my toes are starting to ache, the first warning sign. But not yet. Not quite yet. Look, Peter says suddenly, pointing toward the horizon. We follow his gaze. At first I don't see anything, just the same expanse of ice and snow we always see. Then I notice movement, subtle but definite, a shifting in the air near the distant lead of open water. What is it? William asks, his voice tense. Fog, Peter says, rolling in. He's right. A low bank of fog is forming where warm ocean meets cold air. It rises slowly, like breath, spreading outward across the ice. This happens sometimes, especially when conditions are right. The temperature difference creates these ghostly banks that drift and flow like living things. Will it reach us?
Maybe, Peter replies. Depends on the wind, but it's moving slow. We watch it approach. There's something mesmerizing about it. The fog glows faintly under starlight, luminous and ethereal. It flows around pressure ridges, spills into low areas, advances with patient inevitability. We should go back inside, I suggest. Getting too cold. 1 more minute, William says. Please, just 1 more. We stay.
The fog continues its slow approach, now perhaps a mile away. It's beautiful in its own right, mysterious, the kind of thing that, in warmer climates, you might walk into willingly. Here, fog brings danger. It obscures landmarks, disorients. In fog this thick, you can lose your shelter even when you're only 20 feet away from it. But tonight, it's also a reminder. The ice is not static. It moves, changes, breathes. Pressure ridges form and collapse. Leads open and freeze over. Fog appears and dissipates. Nothing here stays the same for long, except the stars. They remain, constant above the changing ice. Now, Peter says firmly, inside, before our toes start making decisions for us. We turn as one, careful not to slip on the hard-packed snow near the entrance. The tunnel opening looks dark and uninviting, but we know warmth waits below. Relative warmth anyway. One by one, we descend back into our shelter. The transition from outside to inside always feels dramatic. Your face, numb from cold, suddenly tingles as blood returns to skin. Your lungs, accustomed to air so cold it hurts, relax slightly in the less frigid interior. Frost that formed on your tar layers begins to melt slowly, dripping onto the floor where it will refreeze overnight. We strip off the outer layers methodically, hanging them on pegs driven into the wooden walls. Everything must be dried properly. Wet fabric loses its insulating power. Wet fabric can kill you just as surely as exposed skin. The shelter feels almost warm after the intensity of the cold outside. The stove still burns, flames lower now but steady. The lamps cast their familiar orange glow across familiar faces. We settle back into our positions around the central stove, breathing slowly, letting our bodies readjust. "That was worth it," William says, pulling his hood back. His cheeks are red, his eyes bright. Seeing the star like that, being out there together, worth every bit of gold. "It'll be a story," James agrees. "Years from now, when we're old and comfortable, sitting by real fires in real houses, we'll tell people about the Christmas we spent on the ice, about standing under the North Star, about celebrating with nothing." "We didn't have nothing," Edward corrects gently. "We had each other. That's not nothing." Peter nods slowly, staring into the flames. "My father used to say that Christmas isn't about what you have, it's about what you remember. What you hold on to when everything else is stripped away. I never understood that until now. What will you remember?" I ask him.
He thinks for a moment. This. All of it. The cold, the star, the singing, standing outside together. The feeling that even here, at the edge of everything, something sacred can still happen. That we can still mark moments, still celebrate being alive. His words hang in the air, settling gently among us. "That's what Christmas is," James says quietly. "Isn't it? Marking the moment. Saying we're here, we made it, we survived another turn of the year. Everything else is just decoration." "The decoration helps, though," William argues softly. "The warmth and food and lights and family, that all helps." "It does," Peter agrees, "but it's not the heart of it. The heart is what we just did. Acknowledging that we're still here, still together, still capable of celebration even when we have almost nothing to celebrate with." The night deepens around us. Outside, the fog has likely reached our shelter by now, wrapping it in white obscurity. Inside, we're safe from it. The lamps burn steadily. The stove continues its work. We remain in our small circle of warmth and light. "Tell me what you'll do first when you get home," William says suddenly. "First thing, not after you settle in. The very first thing." James smiles. "I'll hug my wife, long enough that she complains. Then I'll stand in front of our fireplace and just feel actual warmth, real warmth, the kind that doesn't require constant work to maintain." "I'll eat something fresh," Edward says. "An apple, a piece of bread that isn't hard as rock, something that reminds me what food tastes like when it hasn't been dried or frozen." Peter's answer is simpler. "I'll sleep, in a real bed, without layers, without waking every few hours. Just sleep." "And you?" William asks, looking at me. I consider the question. What will I do first? I'll walk on ground that doesn't move. Solid earth. I miss that. The feeling of standing on something permanent. Your turn, James says to William. The young man's expression grows distant. I'll tell my family I love them. Out loud. I'll say it. I realized something out here. You can't assume people know things. You have to say them. So that's what I'll do first. Say the things I should have said before I left. We fall quiet after that, each lost in thoughts of home, of things we miss, of people waiting for us. The silence isn't uncomfortable. It's contemplative, shared. Time passes. It's hard to say how much. Without windows, without changing light, time becomes elastic. We measure it by the stove, by how often we need to feed it, by the slow burning of lamp oil, by the gradual deepening of our fatigue. Should we sleep? Edward asks eventually. Soon, Peter says, but not quite yet. Christmas only comes once, even here, especially here. So we stay awake a little longer, watching flames dance, listening to wind whisper across the surface above us, being present in this moment we've carved out of the endless cold.
James reaches into his pack again and pulls out something small, a photograph, worn and creased from being carried and looked at countless times. My wife, he says, holding it toward the lamplight, taken last spring, before I left. We lean in to look. The photograph shows a woman standing in a doorway, smiling. The image is blurred slightly, the details soft, but her expression is clear, warm, open. She's lovely, William says. She is, James agrees, his voice thick. She makes every place feel like home. Even a cold room feels different when she's in it. I miss that. Miss her. Miss feeling at home anywhere. He tucks the photograph away carefully, returning it to the inner pocket where it stays protected from moisture. I don't have any photographs, William admits. Couldn't afford them, but I can see them anyway. My family, when I close my eyes. My mother at the stove. My father in his chair. My sister laughing. It's clear as any picture. Memory's better anyway, Peter says. Photographs capture one moment. Memory holds everything. Movement, sound, feeling. I remember my daughter's voice. The way she says "father" when she wants something. That's worth more than any image. Edward nods. My wife sends letters, long ones. She describes everything. What she's doing, what she's thinking, what the weather's like. Reading them makes me feel like I'm there, like I haven't missed as much as I have. When was your last letter? I ask. September. Same as everyone. 5 months ago now. She might have written more since then. Probably has. But they're sitting somewhere, waiting for spring, waiting for ships that can reach us. I think about that sometimes. How words exist, meant for me, but I can't access them yet. They're in transit, suspended between her and me. That's how we are too, William observes. Suspended, between the life we had and the life we'll return to. Everything's on hold, including us. It's a strange thought, but accurate. Out here we exist in a kind of temporal bubble. The world beyond the ice continues without us. Time passes there normally. But here, everything slows. Days repeat. Nothing changes except the position of the sun and stars. We're frozen, not by temperature alone, but by circumstance. Makes you think about time differently, James muses. When you have too much of it. When every day looks like the one before. Back home, time flew. Always something to do. Always rushing. Here, it crawls. Every hour feels like 3. And yet somehow, months have passed. I've started to forget things, William admits quietly. Small things, like what coffee tastes like. I remember I liked it, but the actual taste, gone. Same with fresh air, the smell of grass, the sound of rain. They're fading. They'll come back, Peter assures him. The moment you experience them again, they'll flood back. Stronger than before, probably. That's what happens. Absence makes you notice things you took for granted.
I hope you're right, William says. I don't want to lose those memories. They're all I have right now.
The conversation drifts naturally from topic to topic, following no particular path. This is how we pass time here, talking, sharing, building a collective memory that helps each of us remember we're more than just bodies in cold. Edward tells a story about learning to ice fish as a child, how his uncle taught him to read ice, to know where it was safe to walk and where it might give way, how patience mattered more than luck, how you could sit for hours without a bite, then suddenly pull up 3 fish in 10 minutes. Ice is like that, he says. Patient, then sudden. It tests you, rewards you when you least expect it. Think there are fish under us right now? William asks, looking down at the floor as if he could see through layers of snow and permafrost to the ocean below. Probably, Peter replies. Life exists everywhere, even in water cold enough to freeze. Fish adapt. They slow down. Metabolism drops. But they survive. Same as us. James laughs softly. We're like the fish. Slowed down, waiting for conditions to improve. Surviving in cold that should be impossible. At least fish don't have to worry about fires going out, I say. Or rations running low, Edward adds. Or whether relief will actually come, William finishes quietly. The mood shifts slightly. We don't often voice that particular worry. It lives in the background, constant but unspoken. What if no ship comes in spring? What if ice stays thick? What if we're forgotten? Ships will come, Peter says firmly. They always do. Company has investment in this outpost. We represent money to them. They'll come. But when? William presses. When ice breaks. Could be May, could be June. Depends on the season. But they'll come. William wants more certainty than that. We all do. But certainty doesn't exist out here. We deal in probabilities and hope. Tell me about the ship, William says to Peter. The one that'll come. Tell me what it'll look like. Peter settles into the request, understanding what William needs. A vision. Something concrete to hold on to. She'll be a steamer, he begins. Reinforced bow, built for ice. She'll push through leads and break through thin spots. You'll hear her before you see her. Steam whistle carries for miles. That'll be the first sign. A sound that doesn't belong here. William closes his eyes, listening. She'll come from the south, Peter continues. Moving slow and careful. Captain will have charts, but charts only show so much. Ice changes. He'll be navigating by instinct as much as maps. Eventually, she'll reach the edge of solid ice. Too thick to break. That's when they'll send a boat. Maybe 2. Row the last distance. How many men? William asks. 6 or 8. Enough to help load supplies and help us pack out. They'll bring mail. Fresh food if we're lucky. News from home. And most important, they'll bring relief.
New crew to take our place. And we leave, William says, eyes still closed. We leave, Peter confirms. Climb into the boat. Watch this place get smaller behind us. Eventually, board the ship. Feel engines thrumming beneath our feet. Smell coal smoke and salt water. Then we sail south, away from ice, toward home. William opens his eyes. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Needed to remember it's real, that this ends. Everything ends, James says gently. Even winter. Even this. The stove requires feeding again. We take turns throughout the night, making sure it never dies completely. Edward stands, stretching stiff muscles, and adds 2 small pieces of driftwood to the flames. They catch quickly, popping as sap ignites. The additional light illuminates our shelter more fully. You can see how we've personalized this space despite its limitations. Small touches that make it feel less like a temporary shelter and more like a home, however humble. Above William's sleeping area, he scratched drawings into the wood. Simple figures. A house, a tree, a sun with rays extending outward. Childlike, but earnest. Reminders of things that exist beyond ice. James has arranged small stones along a shelf near his bed.
smooth ones, collected from the beach before it froze over. Each one different, each one meaningless to anyone else, but clearly significant to him. Edward's space is the most organized, his belongings arranged with precision. Books stacked neatly, their spines aligned, his journal placed carefully on top, a pencil laid across it. Peter's area is sparse, functional, nothing extra, just his bedding, his clothes, and a single small knife he's carved intricate patterns into during long, quiet hours. My own space holds little beyond necessities. A few letters I've read so many times the paper is wearing thin, a compass that doesn't work properly this far north, where magnetic fields behave strangely, a piece of rope I've been practicing knots with, something to keep hands busy. These small personal spaces carved out of shared quarters. We respect each other's areas without discussion. Boundaries matter, even in close quarters, especially in close quarters. Next year, Edward says suddenly, I'm spending Christmas somewhere warm, Mediterranean maybe, somewhere I can feel sun on my face while I eat. I'll come with you, William says immediately. I never want to be cold again, ever. You'll miss it, Peter predicts. Give it 5 years. You'll be telling stories about this time. You'll remember it fondly. Never, William insists. I'll remember it, but fondly, no. This is endurance, not enjoyment. They're not always different, James observes. Sometimes what you endure becomes what you treasure, gives you something to measure everything else against. William considers this. Maybe. Ask me in 5 years. I will, James promises. If we all meet up somewhere warm 5 years from now, I'll ask if you miss the cold.
The idea hangs pleasantly in the air, a future gathering, all of us together again, but in comfort rather than hardship. It's unlikely to happen. Lives scatter after experiences like this. People return to their routines, their separate worlds, but the idea itself provides warmth. Christmas, 5 years from now, Edward proposes. Wherever we are, we think of each other. At noon, exact, we pause. Remember this night. Remember standing under the North Star. Remember being here together. I'll do that, William agrees. Count me in, James adds. Agreed, Peter confirms. Agreed, I echo. We've created a pact. Informal, unwritten, but real. 5 years from now, scattered across different places, living different lives, we'll each take a moment. Remember, connect across whatever distance separates us. It's a small thing, but small things matter out here. Fatigue is finally settling in properly. The excitement of celebration, of going outside, of marking Christmas has burned through our limited energy. Now exhaustion pulls at us with gentle insistence. We should sleep, Peter says. Morning will come whether we rest or not. He's right. Tomorrow will be the same as today, and the day after, and the day after that. The same routines, the same cold, the same waiting. Christmas will be over, folded back into memory, but the ice will remain. We begin preparing for sleep, banking the stove so it burns low but doesn't die, blowing out lamps one by one until only a single flame remains, crawling into our sleeping areas, pulling layers over ourselves. Merry Christmas, William says softly into the growing darkness. Merry Christmas, we echo, one by one. The last lamp is extinguished. Darkness settles completely, broken only by the faint red glow from the stove's small vent. The shelter creaks quietly, as it always does. Wind continues its patient work on the surface above us. The ice groans occasionally, distant and deep. We lie in our separate spaces, close enough to hear each other breathing, close enough that we're not alone, but far enough that we each have a small piece of solitude. I close my eyes and think about the North Star, still shining up there, still holding steady, still marking north for anyone who needs it. Christmas came to the ice tonight. It came quietly, modestly, without fanfare, but it came. We celebrated with almost nothing, and somehow that made it mean more. In the darkness, I smile. We survived another day, another season, another milestone. And tomorrow when we wake, we'll continue surviving, one day at a time, one cold morning at a time, until spring breaks the ice and ships carry us home. But tonight, wrapped in darkness and layers, I let myself feel something other than cold.
Tonight, I feel grateful. Sleep comes slowly, as it always does here. Your body never fully relaxes in the cold.
Some part of you remains alert, monitoring temperature, listening for changes in wind, ready to wake if the stove dies or if danger approaches. It's a shallow sleep, broken by periods of waking, by shifting positions to press warmth back into numb spots. But tonight feels different somehow. The celebration lingers in the air between us, making the darkness feel less oppressive. The memory of standing outside together, of singing together, of sharing stories and laughter, these things soften the edges of hardship. I drift somewhere between waking and sleeping, thoughts fragmenting into half-dreams. I see the North Star, bright and steady. I see faces of people I haven't seen in months. My sister, my mother, friends from home. They're laughing about something I can't quite hear. I feel warmth, real warmth, sun on skin, the kind that goes deep. Then I'm aware again of the cold, of the shelter around me, of the 4 other men breathing in the darkness. This oscillation continues through the night. Sleep, wake, dream, return. The hours pass slowly, marked by nothing except the slow cooling of the stove and the gradual lightening of exhaustion. Somewhere in the deepest part of night, I wake more fully. Something has changed, though I can't immediately identify what. I lie still, listening. The wind has stopped. Complete silence surrounds the shelter. No whistle across the surface, no groan of ice, nothing. Just profound, heavy silence. It's disorienting. We've grown so accustomed to constant sound, constant movement of air, that its absence feels wrong, almost threatening. I sit up slowly, careful not to disturb the others. In the faint glow from the stove, I can see their shapes, all sleeping, or at least lying quietly. Should I check outside? Is the silence dangerous or simply unusual? Before I can decide, Peter's voice comes quietly from his corner. You feel it too? The silence, I confirm, equally quiet. Strange, he murmurs. Not natural. Should we check? He considers this. Give it a few minutes. See if it changes. Could just be a calm spot. Wind does that sometimes. Stops completely before shifting direction. We wait together in the darkness, listening to nothing. Minutes pass. Then gradually, sound returns. Not wind at first, but something else. A creaking, low and prolonged. The ice is moving. Pressure ridge forming, Peter says quietly. Somewhere nearby, ice is shifting. This happens periodically. The frozen ocean isn't static. Currents move beneath it. Temperature changes cause expansion and contraction. When forces build enough, the ice buckles, creating ridges or cracks. Usually, this is nothing to worry about, unless it happens very close, unless it happens beneath you. The creaking continues, growing slightly louder. It sounds almost alive, like some massive creature stirring in sleep. How close? I ask. Hard to say. Sound carries straying on ice. Could be right next to us. Could be half a mile away.
We listen intently. The other men are waking now, responding to the change in atmosphere. Edward sits up, then James. William remains lying down but is clearly alert. Pressure ridge? Edward asks. Likely, Peter confirms. Should we go up? James asks. Not yet, Peter says. If we need to evacuate, we'll know. The shelter will tell us. He's referring to the way structures respond to ice movement. If pressure builds directly beneath us, we'll feel it. The walls will flex, the floor might buckle. Those are signs to move immediately. Right now, everything remains stable. The creaking continues, but distant enough that it's not an immediate threat. Nothing we can do anyway, Peter adds, except be ready. So we wait, sitting in darkness, listening to the ice reshape itself somewhere nearby. It's a reminder of how temporary everything is out here,
how quickly conditions can change, how little control we actually have. The creaking reaches a peak. A sharp crack echoes across the ice, loud enough that we all flinch. Then silence again, brief, before the normal sounds return, wind picking up, the subtle groan of ice settling into its new configuration. Done, Peter says, for now. We relax slightly. Not completely, but enough. The immediate moment has passed. Merry Christmas, William says into the darkness, his voice shaky but trying for humor. A few quiet laughs answer him. At least it's memorable, James offers. I'd prefer boring, William admits. You'd prefer warm, Edward corrects. That too. The tension breaks. We settle back into our sleeping positions, though sleep feels more elusive now. The ice has reminded us of its presence, of its power, of the fact that we exist here only at its tolerance. Morning arrives gradually and without drama. There's no sunrise to mark it. The sun won't appear above the horizon for weeks yet, but light grows slowly, seeping into the darkness. Twilight stretches for hours at this latitude and season. The sky brightens from black to deep blue to a pale gray that passes for daylight. We wake in stages, moving stiffly in the cold. The stove has burned very low, barely more than embers. Edward feeds it immediately, coaxing flames back to life. The small burst of heat is welcome, though it takes time to warm the shelter even slightly. Another day begins. The same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow will be, but different because yesterday was Christmas, because yesterday something changed in us, something shifted that has nothing to do with ice or pressure ridges. We dress methodically, prepare a simple breakfast of dried fish and hard biscuit, eat in silence, conserving energy for the day ahead. After eating, we follow our routine. Someone must check the instruments, record temperature, barometric pressure, wind speed, and direction. These measurements are part of our job, the data we're paid to collect. I'll go, I volunteer. I'll join you, James says. We suit up, going through the familiar process of layering until we're insulated enough to survive outside. Then we crawl through the tunnel and emerge onto the surface. The fog from last night has cleared, leaving the landscape sharp and crisp. The sky is lighter now, that pre-dawn glow that lasts for hours, and immediately we see the change. A new pressure ridge has formed about 300 yards from our shelter. It wasn't there yesterday. Now it rises like a small mountain range, jagged blocks of ice thrust upward by immense forces. Some blocks are as large as houses, tilted at dramatic angles, creating a chaotic sculpture of frozen water. That was close, James says quietly. Too close. If those forces had been directed slightly differently, if the pressure had built beneath our shelter instead of beyond it, we would have been in serious danger, possibly killed, certainly forced to evacuate in the middle of night into deadly cold. We stand looking at it for a moment, understanding how narrow our margin of safety really is. Christmas miracle, James suggests, only half joking. We're still here, shelter's intact. That counts for something. Counts for a lot, I agree. We move to the instrument shelter, a smaller structure positioned 50 yards from our main shelter. Inside, protected from wind, sit our weather instruments. We record readings carefully, noting everything in a waterproof journal. Temperature, minus 42 degrees. Wind, light, from the northwest. Pressure, steady. Sky, clear. Ice conditions, new pressure ridge formed, approximately 300 yards northeast of station. The act of recording grounds us, gives purpose to the day. These measurements matter to someone, somewhere. Even if we never see them use the data, we trust that they do, that our work here serves a purpose beyond merely surviving. Task complete, we scan the horizon before returning inside, looking for any unusual. Ships, though none are expected, wildlife, though little exists here in winter, changes in ice that might affect our situation. Nothing. Just endless white, broken by the new pressure ridge and the distant line where ice meets water. We return to the shelter. Inside, the others have cleaned breakfast dishes and are settling into the day's routines. Edward writes in his journal, documenting yesterday's celebration. William is mending a tear in his sleeping bag, needle moving slowly through tough fabric. Peter is sharpening his knife, the rhythmic scrape of stone on metal filling the space. New pressure ridge, I report, about 300 yards out, big one. They all look up. How big? Peter asks. Some blocks higher than our shelter, James answers. Peter nods slowly. We were lucky. Could have been us. But it wasn't, Edward says firmly. We're still here, still safe. For now, William adds quietly. For now is all we ever have, Peter replies. Out here, anywhere. You can't live beyond right now.
It's a philosophy born of harsh experience. Planning too far ahead on the ice is pointless. Conditions change too rapidly. You focus on the present, on the next meal, the next fire, the next watch. That's how you survive. The day unfolds in familiar patterns. Small tasks fill the hours. Maintaining equipment, checking supplies, exercise inside the cramped space to keep muscles from atrophying completely. Reading, talking, long silences. This is our life, has been for months, will be for months more. But today feels different. Yesterday's celebration has left a residue, a sense of connection that wasn't quite as strong before. We move around each other more comfortably, share small jokes, help without being asked. Something has shifted, something subtle but real. By midday, such as it is in the permanent twilight, restlessness sets in. William paces in the small space available, 3 steps in each direction. I need to move, really move. My legs are forgetting how to walk properly. Want to check the ridge? James suggests. Get a closer look. I'll come, Edward says immediately. Me too, I add. Peter considers, then shakes his head. I'll stay. Keep the fire. Someone should. It's practical. Not everyone needs to go, and having one person always at the shelter ensures it's maintained. But I sense Peter also wants solitude, time alone to think. We all need that occasionally, though it's hard to find in shared quarters. The 4 of us prepare to go outside again. The process is familiar enough now that we barely think about it. Layers, check straps, mittens, final adjustments. We emerge into cold that feels even sharper than this morning. Wind has picked up slightly, not dangerous but noticeable. It cuts across exposed ice, picking up loose snow and carrying it in low, snaking streams that swirl around our boots. We move toward the pressure ridge slowly, carefully testing ice with each step. You can't always tell where cracks might have formed during the night's activity. One misstep could drop you through into water below. At these temperatures, survival time in water is measured in minutes. But the ice here is thick, solid, safe as ice ever is. As we approach the ridge, its scale becomes more impressive. Some of the ice blocks tower 15 feet high, edges sharp where they broke and thrust upward. Others lean against each other, creating caves and tunnels through the formation. It's beautiful, William says, and he's right. Sunlight, such as it is, catches the ice and makes it glow. Blues and whites mix in layers, showing where different freezes occurred. The surfaces are textured, some smooth as glass, others rough and crystalline. Can we climb it? William asks. Carefully, James says, very carefully. We approach the base of the ridge. Up close you can see how the ice fractured. Clean breaks in some places, shattered chaos in others. The forces required to move these masses are incomprehensible, and yet they moved. Rearranged themselves while we slept nearby. William finds a route and starts climbing, using cracks and protrusions as hand and footholds. His movements are slow, testing each position before committing weight to it. James follows, then Edward. I bring up the rear, watching their progress. The climb isn't technical, but it requires attention. Ice is slippery. Falling means injury at best. We help each other, calling out good holds, warning about unstable sections. William reaches the top first, a relatively flat area about 10 feet up. He stands carefully, looking around. You have to see this, he calls down. We join him, one by one, standing together on our small ice platform. The view is extraordinary. From this height, you can see farther across the frozen ocean. The ice extends in all directions, but from up here you can appreciate its complexity. Pressure ridges create lines and patterns. Smooth sections alternate with broken areas. The distant lead is more visible, a dark line against white. And beyond everything, the sky, vast and pale and seemingly infinite. This is why I came north, William says softly. Not for money, not really. For this. For seeing things most people will never see. Worth the cold? James asks. William hesitates, then nods. Yeah, even with the cold. Worth it. We
We stand together in silence, just looking. The wind tugs at our clothing. Cold presses in from all sides. But for this moment, discomfort fades. We're witnessing something few humans ever will. Standing on ice that didn't exist yesterday. Seeing a landscape that will look different tomorrow. It's humbling and exhilarating in equal measure. We don't stay long, can't. The cold is relentless, even with all our layers. The climb down is slower than the climb up. Descending on ice requires even more caution, but we manage it without incident, reaching solid ground safely. As we walk back toward the shelter, William keeps looking over his shoulder at the ridge. "Thank you," he says, "for coming with me, for sharing that." "We're in this together," Edward reminds him. "That's what last night taught us. We're not just co-workers, we're something more." "Brothers," James suggests. "Ice brothers." It sounds dramatic, but it doesn't feel wrong. Shared hardship creates bonds that normal friendship doesn't quite capture. We've kept each other alive. We've celebrated Christmas with nothing. We've stood under stars and on ice ridges and in wind that wants to kill us. That creates connection. Back at the shelter, Peter has a pot of hot water ready. We've saved a small amount of tea, real tea, for special occasions. He's decided this qualifies. We share the tea, passing the single cup around, each taking small sips. It's weak, barely flavored, but warm. The warmth travels down your throat and settles in your stomach, spreading outward. "Two ice brothers," James says, raising the cup before passing it on. "Two surviving," Edward adds. "To spring," William contributes.
To home, I say. To now, Peter finishes, because now is all we're certain of. The cup completes its circle. We settle back into afternoon routines, but the energy has changed. There's a lightness that wasn't present before, a sense of camaraderie that feels earned rather than forced. Christmas may be over, but something it created persists. Afternoon fades into evening, not that you can tell by light, which remains constant twilight, but by feeling, by the internal clock we all maintain, by fatigue and hunger signaling that day is transitioning to night. We prepare a simple dinner. More dried fish, hard biscuit, a portion of beans we've been rationing. Not much, but enough. Meals here are about fuel, not pleasure. We eat to maintain body temperature and energy. Taste is secondary. After dinner, we settle into our evening routine. This is when stories usually emerge, when tiredness loosens tongues and memories surface. Tonight, Edward shares something he's never mentioned before. "I almost didn't come north," he says quietly. "Was engaged, planning a wedding. Then this job came up. Money was good, too good to pass up. I told myself it was just one season, 8 months. I'd come back with enough saved to start our life properly." He pauses, staring at the stove. "She didn't want me to go, said money wasn't worth it. But I thought I knew better, thought I was being practical, providing." "What happened?" William asks gently. "She gave me an ultimatum, her or the job. I chose the job." He laughs, but it's hollow. "Told myself she'd understand eventually, that she'd see I did it for us." "And?" James prompts. "She married someone else, 3 months after I left. Got a letter about it in September." Silence fills the shelter. "I'm sorry," I say finally. Edward shakes his head. "My choice, my consequences. But it taught me something. You can't put life on hold, can't postpone the important things for money or opportunity or anything else, because life doesn't wait. It keeps moving, with or without you." His words hang heavy in the small space. "Is that why you're so careful about marking time?" William asks, keeping track of days. "Partly," Edward admits. "Can't get that time back, but I can make sure I don't lose any more than necessary. Every day matters, even here, especially here." We sit with that wisdom, each processing it through our own experiences and regrets. "I've been thinking about time too," James says eventually. "About how much I've spent working, building a career. Always one more job, one more promotion, one more achievement. Meanwhile, my wife waits, growing older. We've been married 8 years, still no children. She wants them. I keep saying soon. After this, after that." He looks up, meeting our eyes. "What if I run out of time?
What if I spend it all on work and miss everything else? You won't, William says firmly. You're aware of it now. That's what matters. You can change. Can I? James asks.
Or is awareness not enough? Do I need to fundamentally become someone different? No one has an easy answer for that. Peter finally speaks. I think awareness is the first step. Can't change what you don't see. Now you see it. What you do with that seeing, that's up to you. But at least you have the choice now. James nods slowly. When I get home, I'm making changes. Real ones. Less work, more time with her. With whoever else is in our life by then. Good, Edward says. Learn from my mistakes. The conversation continues softly into the evening, each man sharing pieces of himself he might not have shared in other circumstances. But here, stripped of normal social contexts, barriers drop more easily. William talks about feeling aimless before coming north, about not knowing what he wanted from life. I'm still not sure, he admits, but at least now I know what I don't want. This is clarifying, in a way, narrows the options. What don't you want? I ask. To feel like I'm just passing time. I did that before. Worked jobs that meant nothing, went through motions. I want purpose, direction, something that makes me feel alive. Like climbing ice ridges, James suggests, smiling. William grins. Maybe something that scares me a little, challenges me. I was more alive on top of that ridge than I've been in years. That has to mean something. Could mean you're an idiot, Peter says, but gently. Could also mean you're figuring yourself out. Both are possible. We laugh. Real laughter, the kind that comes from comfort and trust. I share my own story then, about leaving home young to work, about sending money back to family for years, about missing weddings and births and funerals because I was always elsewhere, always working. I justified it by saying I was helping, providing, but mostly I was avoiding. Home felt complicated. Work felt simple, so I chose simple. You regret it? Edward asks. I regret the missed moments, the times I can't get back, but I don't regret working. It taught me things, shaped me. I'm just hoping it's not too late to go back, to be part of things again rather than outside them. It's never too late, Peter says firmly. People forgive, families adapt. You show up, make effort, they'll welcome you back. You sound certain, I observe. I am, he says, because I've done it. Left my family for years when I was younger, worked boats constantly, missed everything. Then one day I realized my daughter wouldn't recognize me if I walked past her. That scared me straight. I went home, made different choices. They didn't forget I'd been gone, but they forgave, made room for me again. And now you're here, William points out, away again. Now I'm here, Peter agrees, but different this time. This is temporary. I know it. They know it. When I leave here, I'm done with long jobs, done being away. This is my last season. I'm going home and staying home. Promise? James asks. Promise, Peter confirms.
I'm too old for this anyway. Cold hurts more than it used to. Body doesn't recover as fast. Time to let younger men freeze for money. We smile at that, but there's truth in it. Peter looks worn in ways the rest of us don't yet. The years of harsh work have taken their toll. What will you do? William asks him. At home. Spend time with my daughter. She's almost grown, but I can still be present for what's left. Maybe teach her things, share what I've learned. Then, when she's settled, I'll find something quiet. Fish locally, maybe. Small boat. Day trips. Nothing that takes me away from warm beds and family dinners. It sounds perfect. Simple and perfect. I hope you get that, I say sincerely. You've earned it. We'll see, Peter replies. Ice doesn't owe me anything, but I'm hopeful. Night deepens properly now. We're all tired, worn down by the day's activities and emotional openness. These kinds of conversations drain you differently than physical work. But they're necessary, maybe more necessary than we realize. They keep us human, keep us connected not just to each other, but to the lives we came from and will return to. We prepare for sleep again, banking the fire, settling into our spaces. Tomorrow will bring the same routines, the same cold, the same waiting, but we'll face it with slightly more understanding of each other. Thank you, William says into the darkness, for sharing, for letting me know you. It helps.
Helps us too, James replies, knowing we're not alone in our regrets and hopes. We're all just figuring it out, Edward adds, even when we pretend otherwise. Especially then, Peter agrees. Silence settles, comfortable now, familiar. I close my eyes and think about home, about what I'll do differently when I return, about promises I'll make to myself and actually keep. The ice creaks softly, constantly. Wind whispers across the surface. These sounds have become lullaby, strange but true. Sleep approaches slowly. Before it takes me completely, I think one more time about the North Star, about how it guided us to Christmas, about how it holds steady while everything else moves. We need that, steady points in shifting landscapes. And somehow in this frozen place, we've become that for each other. Days blur together after Christmas. We fall back into routines that no longer require thought. Wake, tend fire, eat, check instruments, record data, maintain equipment, exercise, eat, talk, sleep, repeat. The monotony is profound. Time becomes elastic, stretching and compressing without pattern. Hours feel like minutes, minutes feel like hours. Days disappear, then suddenly it's been a week. We mark time by small changes. The angle of twilight, the position of stars, the slow accumulation of ice on the interior walls. These tiny variations become significant when nothing else changes. William grows quieter as January progresses. The initial excitement of northern adventure has long since faded. Now he's simply enduring.
We all are, but it shows more clearly in him. His youth makes the weight of waiting more visible. "How do you do this?" he asks one evening. "Year after year? How do you keep coming back?" The question is directed at Peter, who has worked northern seasons for decades. Peter considers carefully. "It gets in you," he says finally. "The North. It's hard, harder than anything else, but it's honest. No pretending, no politics, just you and the ice. There's purity in that. Addictive, even." "I don't feel addicted," William mutters. "I feel trapped." "That's because you're still in it," Peter replies. "Wait until you're home, warm, comfortable. You'll remember this place differently. The hardship fades, the unique experiences remain. Give it time." William doesn't look convinced, but he nods. We all understand his frustration. The waiting wears on everyone. We're ready to leave, ready for spring, ready for relief. But wanting doesn't change anything. Ice melts on its own schedule. Late January brings a storm. We see it coming for days, building on the horizon. Dark clouds that gradually spread across the sky, wind picking up, temperature dropping even lower, if that's possible. When it hits hard. Wind screams across the ice, carrying snow horizontally. Visibility drops to nothing. White fills everything. We stay inside, knowing that stepping out means getting lost instantly. The shelter shakes but holds. Snow piles against it, adding insulation but also weight. The storm lasts 3 days. 3 days of constant wind and snow. 3 days of noise so loud conversation is difficult. 3 days of wondering if the shelter will hold or if we'll be forced to evacuate into conditions that will kill us in minutes. But the shelter holds. When the storm finally passes, we dig ourselves out carefully. The tunnel entrance is completely buried. We have to excavate upward, removing snow block by block until we break through to surface. The world outside has been transformed. Snow has reshaped everything. The pressure ridge is partially buried. Our instrument shelter is gone, blown away or crushed. Only its foundation remains. The landscape is smoothed, softened, all previous features covered or altered. We stand together, looking at the destruction and creation. "Well," James says eventually, "that was exciting." It's such an understatement that we all laugh. Exhausted, relieved laughter. "We'll need to rebuild the instrument shelter," Edward observes. "We'll need to find it first," Peter corrects. "Might be under 10 feet of snow, might be a mile away." It's an accurate assessment. Storms move things, bury things, change everything. We'll spend days or weeks recovering what we can, rebuilding what we can't. But we survived.
The 5 of us, still together, still intact. That's what matters. February arrives without fanfare. We've recovered from the storm, rebuilt what needed rebuilding, adjusted to the new landscape. Life continues its slow, cold rhythm.
But something is changing. Subtle, but noticeable. The twilight is gradually growing brighter. Not much, but if you pay attention, if you compare today's light to last week's, you can see the difference. The sun is climbing, still below the horizon, but approaching. This small change affects everyone's mood. Spring is still months away, but the first signs are appearing. Light is returning. "How long until we see actual sun?" William asks. "March," Peter answers. "Sometime in March. It'll touch the horizon first, just for a few minutes, then more each day." "I can wait for March," William says. "Feels achievable now." It does. February is the psychological turning point, past the deepest darkness, moving toward light. Still cooled, still difficult, but trending in the right direction. We allow ourselves to talk more openly about leaving, about what we'll do when relief comes, about plans and hopes. These conversations were too painful earlier. Now they feel safe, close enough to reality that hope doesn't hurt as much. "First thing," James declares one evening, "I'm taking a bath, hot water, as hot as I can stand, for an hour." "First thing," Edward counters, "I'm sleeping in a real bed, with sheets and a blanket that's actually warm." "First thing," William says, "I'm eating something fresh, anything, an apple, a carrot, just something that wasn't dried or frozen." "First thing," I offer, "I'm standing in a warm room and just feeling it. No layers, no cold, just warmth soaking in." "First thing," Peter says, "I'm hugging my daughter, won't let go until she makes me." We fall silent, each imagining our first moments of freedom from the ice. "Second thing," James continues, lighter now, "I'm never being cold again." We laugh, knowing it's not true. We'll all be cold again. Life includes cold, but never like this, never this extreme or prolonged. The conversation continues, weaving fantasies of comfort and warmth. It's a pleasant way to pass time, a harmless indulgence that keeps spirits up. Outside, wind continues its work. Ice continues its slow, patient existence, and we continue surviving, day by day, moving incrementally towards spring. Mid-February brings a visitor. Not human, an Arctic fox. Peter spots it first during a morning instrument check, a small white form moving across the ice in the distance. At first he thinks it's a trick of light, then the form moves definitely, purposefully. "Fox," he calls back to the shelter. We all emerge to look. The fox is perhaps 200 yards away, hunting. It moves in bursts, stopping frequently to listen, then pouncing at something beneath the snow, hunting lemmings probably. We watch in silence, not wanting to disturb it. Wildlife is rare here in winter. Seeing any creature reminds us that life persists even in the harshest conditions. The fox is beautiful, pure white, almost glowing against the snow, thick fur, small and compact, perfectly designed for this environment. It moves with confidence we recognize. It belongs here in ways we don't. Eventually, it notices us, stops, looks directly at our group. We're far enough away that we're not threatening, close enough that we're interesting. The fox sits, watching us. We watch back. It's a strange moment, a meeting between two forms of life, both trying to survive the same impossible cold. We have our shelter and fire and layers. It has fur and instinct and absolute adaptation. After several minutes, the fox stands, apparently deciding we're not worth further attention. It trots away, disappearing over a pressure ridge, leaving only tracks to prove it existed. "Beautiful," William breathes. "Survivor," Peter says respectfully. "Lives out here year-round, makes our 8 months look easy." It's true. The fox doesn't get relief in spring, doesn't go home to warmth. This is home. This is life. Permanent adaptation to permanent cold. It makes our struggles feel smaller somehow. We're visitors, temporary. We'll leave. The fox stays. "Nature's tougher than we are," Edward observes. "Always has been,
James agrees. We just pretend otherwise. The fox sighting lifts spirits noticeably. It broke the monotony, reminded us the world is larger than our small shelter and daily routines. Life exists beyond our struggles. That night, we talk about animals we've seen over the months. Seals on ice, birds passing overhead during brief summer, even insects that appeared impossibly far north. Life finds ways to exist in places that seem impossible. We're part of that pattern. Humans adapting, persisting, making it work despite conditions that shouldn't allow it. We're not so different from the fox, I suggest, just using different strategies. The fox doesn't complain about the cold, though, William points out. The fox doesn't know anything else, Peter counters. We do. We know warmth exists. That makes enduring cold harder. Ignorance is bliss, James asks. Sometimes, Peter admits. Sometimes knowing what you're missing makes everything harder. It's a melancholy thought, but honest. We carry the weight of comparison. The fox does not. Still, we have something the fox lacks. Hope. Knowledge that this is temporary. Spring will come. We will leave. That future pulls us forward in ways instinct alone cannot. Late February arrives. The light is noticeably brighter now. Still twilight, still dim, but growing. We can see farther. Colors begin to return slightly. The endless gray and white gain subtle variations. Our supplies are holding, barely. We've rationed carefully, stretching everything as far as possible. We won't starve, but we won't be comfortable either. Every meal is calculated, every piece of fuel weighed against need. Another month, Edward estimates, looking at our dwindling stores. Maybe 6 weeks, then we're in trouble. Relief will come before that, Peter says confidently. Ice breaks in April. Ships arrive early May. We'll be fine.
If ice breaks, William mutters. It always breaks, Peter assures him. Might take longer some years, but it breaks. We want to believe him, need to believe him. The alternative is too difficult to consider. But privately, we each do the math. We each calculate how long we could stretch supplies if relief is delayed. The numbers are uncomfortable. We don't discuss this openly, don't want to voice fears that might become real, but the awareness sits among us, unspoken but present. Instead, we focus on positive signs, the growing light, the occasional clear day, the gradual warming, still far below freezing but trending upward. These small improvements matter disproportionately. We're past the worst, James declares one evening. February is the final test. We've made it. March will be easier. We want to believe that too. And maybe it's true. Maybe the worst is behind us. Maybe we've proven we can endure. Maybe spring will come exactly when expected, and relief will arrive, and we'll all go home with stories to tell. Maybe. But the ice doesn't promise anything. It simply exists, patient and indifferent, waiting to see how long we can match its patience with our own. March arrives with a gift. Sunrise. Not full sunrise, not the sun clearing the horizon completely, but for the first time in months, a sliver of direct sunlight appears. We all go outside to watch, standing together, facing south, waiting. The sky brightens in layers, deep blue, lighter blue, orange and pink near the horizon, then impossibly bright, a thin edge of gold appears. The sun. Just the top curve, just for a few minutes, but undeniably, beautifully there. We don't speak, don't move, just stand and watch as that golden edge touches the horizon, holds for a moment, then slips back down. But it happened. We saw it. The sun returned. Tomorrow it'll be longer, Peter says softly. Each day a little more. We believe him because we saw it ourselves, proof that time is passing, that winter is loosening its grip, that change is possible. That night, spirits are higher than they've been in months. We talk late, excited, energized in ways we haven't felt since Christmas. The sun's return is more than symbolic. It's psychological proof that we're moving toward the end. How long until it stays up all day? William asks. June, Peter answers. By June, it won't set at all. Midnight sun. You'll hate it. Too bright to sleep properly. I'll risk it, William laughs. We all would, gladly. The problem of too much sun feels luxurious compared to too much darkness. When do ships typically arrive? Edward asks, though we've discussed this before, but asking again feels different now, closer to real.
Early May if ice cooperates, Peter says. Mid-May more likely. Could be late May if it's a bad year. So 2 months, James calculates. Maybe 10 weeks. We can do that. We can, I agree. We've done harder already. It's true. We've survived the darkest months.
The coldest temperatures, the worst storm. If we can do that, we can manage 2 more months of waiting. Then we go home, William says, almost dreamily. Back to the world, back to normal. Whatever normal means after this, Edward adds. Different normal, I suggest. Changed normal. We won't be the same people who left. Better or worse, James asks. Both, Peter says. Stronger in some ways, more aware of what matters, but also carrying things, memories, experiences. They change you, can't avoid it. I'm okay with that, William says. I don't want to be unchanged. This cost too much to leave me the same. We sit with that truth. This experience has cost us time, comfort, parts of ourselves we'll never fully recover. But it's also given us something, perspective, understanding, a depth of experience most people never face. The trade feels fair in retrospect. Mid-March brings a shock. During routine checks, Edward discovers our supply cache has been broken into. Not by humans, by animals. Somehow, despite our precautions, foxes or other creatures found their way to our backup food stores. A small building we constructed specifically to protect supplies from weather and wildlife. They've destroyed it, chewed through containers, scattered food, contaminated what they didn't eat. We stand looking at the damage, calculating losses. How much? James asks quietly. Edward moves through the wreckage carefully. At least a week's rations, maybe more. Hard to tell what's salvageable. A week's rations. That's significant. That changes our timeline dangerously. Can we stretch what's left? William asks, voice tight. Maybe, Peter says, if we cut portions further, if relief comes on time. 2 big ifs. The mood shifts dramatically. The optimism from seeing sunrise fades. Reality presses back in, cold and hard. We salvage what we can, anything the animals didn't actually touch, anything still sealed. But the loss is substantial. That night, dinner portions are smaller, noticeably smaller. We eat slowly, trying to make it feel like more than it is. No one complains. What would be the point? The food is gone. We adapt. But the math is clear now. We're in a race. Will relief arrive before we run out of food? The answer determines everything. We'll be fine, Peter says, though he sounds less certain than before. Ships will come. They always do. And if they're delayed, William asks. Then we ration more, Peter replies. Stretch it. Fish if ice breaks nearby. Hunt if anything appears. We'll make it work. We should prepare, though, Edward says. Make plans for if relief is late. We spend the evening discussing contingencies. How to hunt seals if opportunity arises. How to fish through ice. How to identify what's edible in an environment that appears to have nothing. These are uncomfortable conversations. They force us to confront possibilities we've been avoiding. But they're necessary. We won't starve, James says firmly.
Worst case, we'll be hungry, uncomfortable, but we won't starve. Not yet. Not yet hangs in the air, ominous. But it's honest, and honesty is all we have now. Late March tests us. Rations are tight. Bellies are never quite full. Energy levels drop noticeably. Tasks take longer. Tempers fray more easily. We're careful with each other, knowing that conflict in close quarters can spiral dangerously. But strain shows in small ways. Snapped responses, longer silences, less patience for minor annoyances. The sun climbs daily now, spending more time above the horizon. This helps psychologically. Light matters, but it doesn't fill stomachs. We establish hunting rotations. 2 men check ice near the open water lead, looking for seals. So far, nothing. It's too early in the season, but we have to try. The waiting becomes almost unbearable. Not dramatic, just heavy. Every day that passes without relief is a day closer to real crisis. We all do the math repeatedly. How many days until we're in serious trouble? The number shrinks steadily. April 10th, Edward announces one evening. That's when it gets critical. If relief hasn't come by then, we're in danger. We mark the date in our minds, 2 weeks away, 14 days. It'll come before that, James insists. Has to. But hope and certainty are different things. We have hope. Certainty remains elusive. The ice itself shows signs of change. Cracks appear more frequently. The lead widens slightly. These are good signs. Ice breaking means ships can move, but it also means conditions are unstable. Walking anywhere requires increased caution. Saw open water, Peter reports after one watch. Maybe 3 miles out, more than last week. Ice is breaking up, Edward confirms, right on schedule. So ships should follow, William says, almost pleading for it to be true. Should, Peter agrees, but should and will aren't the same thing. We know this, but hearing it spoken aloud makes it more real, more frightening. That night, sleep is difficult for everyone. Hunger makes rest harder. Worry makes it nearly impossible. We lie in the darkness, listening to ice crack and groan, each sound carrying new significance. Is that ice breaking enough for ships? Is relief on its way? Or are we alone for longer? Questions without answers. April 1st arrives. 9 days until Edward's critical date. 9 days until our situation becomes desperate. But April 1st also brings something unexpected. Sound. Peter hears it first during morning watch. A low, distant sound that doesn't belong. He listens carefully, trying to identify it. Then he realizes what it is. A ship's horn. He scrambles back to the shelter, moving faster than he has in months. Ship, he shouts down the tunnel. There's a ship. We pour out of the shelter, barely dressed, not caring about the gold, standing together, straining to hear. There, faint but unmistakable, a ship's horn, carried on wind across the ice. Where? James asks frantically.
Peter points. South. Maybe 5 miles. Can't see it yet, but it's there. We listen, hardly breathing. The horn sounds again, longer this time. They're signaling, looking for us, letting us know they're coming. Relief. Actual, real relief. They came, William says, voice breaking. They actually came. Told you, Peter says, but gently. They always come. We stand in the cold, listening to that beautiful sound. Proof that we're not forgotten. Proof that the ordeal is ending. Proof that we survived. We need to signal back, Edward says, snapping into practical mode. Let them know we're here. We're alive. We scramble into action, build a fire on the ice using everything we can find. Black smoke rises, visible for miles. We take turns firing a flare gun, 3 shots, the universal signal for presence and distress. Then we wait, watching, listening. The ship's horn sounds again, closer this time. They've seen our signals. They're coming. The ship appears an hour later, first as a dark shape on the horizon, then gradually resolving into familiar form. A steamer, reinforced bow, exactly as Peter described months ago. She moves slowly, carefully navigating through ice, pushing through thin spots, finding channels, working her way toward us. We watch every moment, can't look away. It's the most beautiful thing we've seen in 8 months. How long until they reach us? William asks. Couple hours, Peter estimates. Gotta navigate carefully. Can't rush in ice like this. So we wait. But this waiting is different. This is waiting with certainty, with joy, with the end in sight. We use the time to pack, gathering our belongings, our records, our journals, everything we need to take, everything we can't leave behind. The personal items we've lived with for months are packed quickly. We own almost nothing. Everything fits in simple packs. Should we take down the shelter? Edward asks. Leave it, Peter decides. Next crew can use it, or not. Either way, we're done with it. We take one last look inside, the space that kept us alive, protected us from wind and cold and darkness. It's not much, just wood and snow and canvas. But it was home. For a while, it was home. Thank you, William says quietly, addressing the shelter itself. It seems right, an acknowledgement. The structure served its purpose. Then we leave it behind, walk away without looking back.
The ship is close enough now that we can see details. Men moving on deck, smoke from the stack, the name painted on her bow. Northern Star, James reads. Appropriate. Very appropriate. The North Star guided us to Christmas. Now Northern Star carries us away. The ship reaches the edge of solid ice and stops. A boat is lowered. 6 men row toward us, pulling hard, efficient and practiced. We stand at the edge of ice, watching them approach. 5 figures in tattered clothing, thinner than we left, harder than we were, but alive, together, intact. The boat reaches us.
A man in the bow, clearly the captain, calls out, "You the Sentinels station?" "We are," Peter calls back. "All 5 accounted for?" "All 5. The captain nods, satisfied. "Let's get you home then." Home. The word hits harder than expected. We're going home. We help load our packs into the boat, then climb in ourselves, one by one. The boat rocks slightly with our weight. Strange to feel motion again after months on solid ice. The rowers pull away, heading back to the ship. We watch our shelter recede, growing smaller, already feeling distant. "Goodbye," William murmurs. No one else speaks, but we're all thinking it. Goodbye to the ice, the cold, the darkness, the endless waiting. Goodbye to the hardest months of our lives. But also goodbye to something else, to the simplicity we found there, to the clarity, to the bonds formed in shared hardship. Those don't disappear just because we're leaving. We carry them forward. The boat reaches the ship. We climb aboard, hands reaching down to help us up. The deck feels strange underfoot, wood instead of ice, moving instead of still. "Welcome aboard," the captain says, shaking each of our hands. "You lads look like you could use a meal." "And a bath," James adds. "And sleep," Edward continues. "And warmth," William finishes. "We've got all of that," the captain assures us. "You're safe now. Heading south. Should be in port in a week." A week. Just a week between here and civilization. Between ice and life. It seems impossible. Too easy after so long struggling. But it's real. We're leaving. The ship's horn sounds, long and deep, an announcement of departure. The engines engage. The deck vibrates beneath our feet. Slowly, carefully, the ship begins moving, backing away from the ice, turning south. We stand at the rail, all 5 of us, watching the station disappear behind us. The shelter is barely visible now, just a small shape against endless white. Then it's gone entirely, swallowed by distance and ice. "That's it then," Peter says quietly. "Done. Done." We echo. We're led below deck to a small cabin. Warm, impossibly, wonderfully warm. A stove burns in the corner, actual warmth radiating properly into the space. We stand near it, hands extended, feeling heat soak into skin that hasn't been truly warm in months. No one speaks. We just feel. A crew member brings food, fresh bread, soup, nothing fancy, but fresh. We eat slowly, carefully. Stomachs unaccustomed to proper food need gentleness. The bread tastes like a miracle, soft, slightly sweet, still warm from baking. We eat reverently, making it last. More where that came from, the crew member assures us. Eat what you want, rest, we'll get you home. After eating, we're shown to bunks, real bunks with mattresses and blankets. We change into clean, dry clothes provided by the crew, strip off layers we've worn for months. Then we sleep. Real sleep, deep and untroubled, in warmth, in safety, in motion carrying us south toward home.
The voyage south takes 8 days. 8 days of gradual transition back to normal life. We sleep a lot that first few days, catching up on months of poor rest. Our bodies finally able to relax completely. We eat proper meals, 3 a day, fresh food that hasn't been dried or frozen, meat, vegetables, fruit. Each meal feels like a celebration. We bathe properly, hot water and soap, scrubbing away months of accumulated grime. It takes multiple baths before we feel truly clean. And we talk with the crew, catching up on 8 months of news, learning what happened in the world while we were frozen on the ice. Political changes, wars, discoveries,
deaths, births. Life continued without us. The world kept turning. It's disorienting at first. We've been so isolated that the idea of continuity elsewhere feels strange. But gradually we reintegrate, remember how to be part of larger society. The five of us spend time together, processing everything. What we experienced, what it meant, how it changed us. I don't regret it, William says one afternoon, standing at the rail watching open ocean. Even with the cold and hunger and fear, I don't regret it. Neither do I, Edward agrees. Hardest thing I've ever done, but I'm glad I did it. James nods. Makes you appreciate things differently. Warmth, food, safety. You don't take them for granted after living without them. Makes you appreciate people too, Peter adds, looking at us. We kept each other alive. That creates bonds that don't break. Ice brothers, I remind them, smiling. Ice brothers, they echo. We stand together, watching waves, different from ice, moving, fluid, alive in new ways. Think you'll ever go back? William asks Peter. Peter shakes his head. I'm done. Like I said, this was my last season. Time to stay home. What about the rest of you? William continues. James considers. Maybe, in a few years, once the memories have softened. There's something about the North. It gets in you, like Peter said. Not me, Edward says firmly. Once is enough. I've proven whatever I needed to prove. Now I focus on what matters. Building life, not just surviving it. And you? Asks me. I don't know, I admit. Part of me wants to return. Part of me never wants to be cold again. Ask me in a year. Fair enough, William says. He looks out at the water, thoughtful. I think I'll come back. Not to the same place, but somewhere north. There's space up here. Room to think, to figure things out. I'm not done with that yet. You'll freeze, James warns, smiling. Probably, William agrees. But I'll be alive while doing it. We fall silent, each lost in thoughts of future and past. What we'll do next, where we'll go, how we'll carry this experience forward. The ship reaches port on a gray morning. We smell land before we see it. Earth, trees, the complex scent of civilization. Then buildings appear. Docks. People moving on shore.
We stand at the rail, dressed in clean clothes provided by the crew, watching anchorage approach. Strange, Edward murmurs, being back. It is strange. After so long on ice, solid land feels foreign. Buildings look too tall, too permanent. Trees seem impossibly green, even in early spring. The ship docks. Lines are thrown and secured. A gangplank is extended. Time to go, Peter says. We gather our packs, thank the crew. They've been kind, understanding what we've been through, even without living it themselves. Safe travels, the captain says, shaking our hands again. Glad we found you when we did. So are we, James replies. We walk down the gangplank together. Our feet touch solid ground for the first time in 8 months. It feels wrong at first. Too stable, not moving. We sway slightly, still accustomed to ice that shifts and breathes. But gradually, we adjust. Remember how to walk on Earth. A company representative meets us, takes our records and journals, confirms our identities, explains payment and logistics. You'll be free to go by tomorrow, he says, after debriefing. Company wants to know about conditions, what worked, what didn't. We expected this. One more task before we're truly released. Where can we stay tonight? Edward asks. Hotel's arranged, the representative says. Company's paying. Get cleaned up, rest. We'll talk tomorrow. He directs us to the hotel. It's not fancy, but it doesn't need to be. It has beds, heat, running water, everything we've been missing. We check in, are given separate rooms. The first time we'll sleep apart in months. It feels odd at first. Private space, silence, no one else breathing nearby. Too much space, somehow. But also luxury, privacy we'd forgotten existed. Meet for dinner, James suggests before we separate. Definitely, we all agree. Dinner that night is in the hotel restaurant. We sit together at a table, still not quite used to chairs and tablecloths and menus with choices. We order too much food, can't help ourselves. After months of rationing, abundance feels unreal.
When the food arrives, we eat slowly, savoring. Every bite is different from the dried fish and hard biscuit we survived on. This is the best meal I've ever had, William declares. It's decent pub food, Edward corrects, smiling. But I know what you mean. We do. It's not about quality. It's about choice, variety, the simple freedom to eat something because you want to, not because it's all that's available. Tomorrow we go our separate ways, Peter says quietly. It's true. After debriefing, we'll disperse. Home to different places, different lives. The intense proximity that defined our months together will end. Stay in touch? William asks, almost pleading. Of course, James says. We have addresses. We'll write. Maybe visit. We're ice brothers. That doesn't end just because the iced us. 5 years, Edward reminds us. Remember? Christmas 5 years from now, noon. We think of each other.
I won't forget, William promises. None of us will, I add. We raise our glasses. Water for now. Too tired for anything stronger. To surviving, Peter says. To each other, James adds. To the North Star, William contributes. To going home, Edward says. To whatever comes next, I finish. We drink, then we eat, and talk late into the evening. Stories and memories. Things we'll miss. Things we're glad to leave behind. Eventually, fatigue pulls us to bed. We say goodnight, knowing tomorrow will bring change. But tonight, we're still together, still connected. Debriefing happens the next morning. We sit in a small office, answering questions about conditions, equipment performance, supply adequacy, what recommendations we'd make for future crews. We're honest. The shelter worked well. The location was reasonable. Supplies were tight but adequate until the animal breach. That needs addressing. The interviewer takes notes, thanks us, processes final paperwork. Then we're released. Officially done. We gather outside the office. 5 men who've been through something most people will never experience. This is it then, William says. For now, Peter replies. Not forever. We exchange addresses carefully, write them down, promise to write, to stay connected. You'll visit? William asks Peter directly. If you're nearby, Peter promises, and you're always welcome at my home, all of you. We shake hands, embrace, hold on a moment longer than normal. Then we part. Peter toward the northern ferry that will take him home, Edward toward the train station, James to a coach. William and I share a direction for a while, walking together. That was harder than I expected, William admits, saying goodbye. They're not just co-workers anymore, I say. They're family. Different kind, but family. Think we'll really stay in touch? Some of us will. Life gets busy, but the connection stays. Even if we don't write often, we'll carry each other forward. William nods slowly. The Ice Brothers. The Ice Brothers, I confirm. We reach a crossroads. William's way goes east, mine goes west. Be well, I tell him. Figure things out. Find what makes you feel alive. You too, he says. Reconnect with home. Don't wait too long. We embrace, then part, walking in different directions. I look back once. William is already small in the distance, but still visible, still there. Then I turn forward, toward home, toward whatever comes next. The journey home takes 3 days. I spend them in motion. Train, coach, walking. Each mile takes me farther from the ice and closer to familiar ground. The landscape changes gradually. Snow gives way to green. Cold moderates. Signs of spring appear everywhere. I watch through windows, relearning the world. How many colors exist beyond white and gray? How many sounds beyond wind? How warm air feels on uncovered skin. It's overwhelming at first. Too much sensation, too much life. I find myself closing my eyes sometimes, needing the simplicity of darkness. But slowly I adjust, remember how to exist in the full, complex world. I think about the others constantly, wonder where they are, how their journeys home are unfolding, whether they're experiencing the same disorientation. I think about the shelter, still standing on the ice, empty now, waiting for the next crew or waiting to collapse. Either way, it served its purpose. I think about the North Star, still shining above the Arctic, still holding steady, still guiding anyone who needs it. And I think about Christmas on the ice, about standing outside with 4 other men, about celebrating with nothing, about singing in darkness, about finding community in the coldest place on earth. That memory will stay with me, will shape how I see everything else. I arrive home on a warm afternoon. The house looks the same, familiar, but I feel different approaching it, changed in ways I'm still processing. I knock on the door. My sister opens it. Her face transforms from curiosity to shock to joy in rapid succession. "You're back," she cries, pulling me into a hug. "You're home." Others come running. Mother, father, friends who heard the commotion. They surround me with questions and embraces and tears. I'm overwhelmed, but also grateful. They remembered me, waited for me, held space for my return. We sit together that evening. I tell stories. They listen. I describe the cold, the darkness, the ice, the shelter that kept us alive, the men who became brothers. They try to understand. Can't fully. How could they? They weren't there. But they try. And their trying matters. "You look different," my mother says quietly. "Older somehow." I feel older, I admit. I saw things, learned things, about cold, about myself, about what matters. And what matters, my father asks. I think about the question. About 8 months of struggle and survival. About Christmas on ice. About 5 men keeping each other alive. People matter, I say finally. Connection. Being present. Not taking warmth for granted. Or food. Or safety. Or each other. Those things matter. My family nods. They understand, even if they don't fully comprehend. "I'm glad you're home," my sister says simply. So am I, and I mean it. Days pass, then weeks. I settle back into life. Not the same life I left, but a new one built on what I learned. I spend time with family, real time, present time, not distracted or planning the next departure. Here, now, with them. I eat meals slowly, appreciating every flavor, every texture, the simple abundance of food that isn't rationed. I sleep in warmth, never quite taking it for granted, always aware of how precious it is. And I write letters, to Peter, to James, to Edward, to William, staying connected across distance. Their letters come back, stories of their own homecomings, their own adjustments, their own processing of what we experienced. Peter writes about his daughter.
How she's grown, how strange it feels to be home permanently, how he sometimes misses the simplicity of ice, even while grateful to be warm. James writes about changes he's making, working less, being present more, trying to build the life he neglected before. Edward writes about plans, building something with the money he saved, something that matters, something that won't leave him with regrets. William writes about restlessness, about finding civilization too complicated, about planning another northern journey, different location, same spirit. We're all processing, all changing, all carrying the ice forward in different ways. Months pass. Christmas approaches again, a full year since we celebrated on the ice. I think about that night often, about standing under the North Star, about singing together, about finding joy in nothing. I wonder if the others are thinking about it too. On Christmas Eve, I light an extra candle, for them, for us, for the memory. At noon on Christmas Day, I pause, stand still, think about them, remember our pact. 5 years from now, we promised, we'd all pause, remember, connect across distance. But I don't want to wait 5 years, so I do it now, and I'll do it every Christmas, remembering the coldest, hardest, most meaningful Christmas I've ever known. Years will pass. We'll live our separate lives,
build families, work jobs, grow older. The ice will become memory, then story, then legend we tell when asked about our youth. But we'll always carry it, the cold, the darkness, the 5 men who became brothers, the Christmas celebrated with nothing that meant everything. We survived the ice, together, and that bond, forged in the coldest place on Earth, will never truly thaw. The North Star still shines above the Arctic, steady, constant, guiding anyone who needs it. And somewhere on the ice, our shelter still stands, or has collapsed. Either way, it served its purpose. It kept us alive, through the longest night, through the coldest months, through fear and hunger and doubt. It kept us alive until we could come home. This is the story of 5 Sentinels who celebrated Christmas on ice, who stood under the North Star and remembered they were human, who survived by holding together when everything else tried to pull them apart. It's a story about cold, but really, it's a story about warmth, the kind you create rather than find, the kind that comes from connection and courage and the refusal to surrender to darkness. It's a story that happened in the Arctic, but it could happen anywhere, whenever people face impossible conditions together, whenever community forms in hardship, whenever celebration arrives despite everything. The ice is ancient, the cold is real, the darkness is deep. But as long as the North Star shines, Christmas arrives, even on the ice, especially on the ice. Thank you for listening to this story of survival, of endurance, and of the warmth that comes from human connection, even in the coldest places.
If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Stories that help you relax, reflect, and find peace. Rest well, stay warm, and remember, even in our coldest moments, we're never truly alone. Good night.